And then you need to ask those questions. And that will impress the employers, and it'll also, keep them from making a bad hire and keep you from taking a bad job if it's not a good fit. If it is a good fit, you're going to find out that you're going to be one of the top candidates because you're asking the right questions, and they're going to recognize that.
Welcome to the Impactful Engineer Project. I'm Steve Maxey, and with my co-host and brother Jake, we are here to bring you guidance, fresh ideas, and the tools to help you become an impactful engineer.
Welcome to the Impactful Engineer Podcast. So today I have my first guest to come onto the show ever. Jamie Spalding is an engineering manager with Hallam ICS. I happen to work for Hallam ICS as well. Today, what we're going to talk about is what you should be looking for in a company when you're interviewing, when you're doing your research, when you're trying to find that next good job, or maybe even your first job. You want to be just as diligent looking into who the company is, what they represent, who they are, and how they operate and how you fit, just as much as how much you're going to get paid and how big of a company they are, and all that other stuff that seems to be really important. So Jamie is the engineering manager. He does a ton of hiring. There is a very involved hiring process, and a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about, most likely today, tends to come out during that process. The people that interview with us learn a lot about the company and the culture and how they fit. It's kind of our specialty here at Hallam. So he'll have a lot of good stuff to say. So welcome to the show, Jamie.
Thank you, Jake. And, I think this is a really awesome topic because if I reflect back on my career, when I graduated, I was in a position where I had to really get a job quickly. And I didn't do any of these things that we're going to talk about today. And it resulted in a really terrible time in my life for the first year until I was able to escape that employer and ended up coming to Hallam. So this is a great topic.
So I guess that before we start getting into the details, I'd be interested in knowing more, about that story. Can you get into
Sure.
that? Share it with us?
Yeah. So I had a young family when I graduated. I was in a 5-year program, so I had an extra year of college, and I had started my family already. And so it was time to get down to paying off student loans instead of accruing them. And so I interviewed for a couple of jobs, and I took one that I had a previous relationship with the employer through an internship search. I hadn't worked for them, but I knew them from looking at internships. And so as that came about, they were one of the first people I called, and I'm thinking, large organization, you drive through the parking lot, they've got signs saying, for 40-year employees. And I'm thinking, this must be a great place to work. And I had total blinders on because I'm thinking, I'm going to start my student loan payments pretty quick here. And I've got a family to support. And so the process that I went through was very limited. Didn't have information like this out there available to me. I'm sure it was available, but I didn't know to look for it. So I think that's a great thing that you're doing here to help encourage people to take a pause, right? Mm-hmm. Because I could have gone a few extra weeks or worked harder when I had the time still in school to secure a job that met the things that I needed out of an employer and the start of my career. So so I ended up working for a large corporation, and it was not the right fit, and I couldn't get out of there soon enough. And they were happy to see me go, and I was happy to leave. And but it all worked out for the better because I landed here at Hallam, and that was the beginning of a wonderful career.
Excellent. Yeah, and something really important you said is take a pause. Evaluate where you are, spend more time evaluating the company. But you should know who you are to a certain point so that you can see that in the company that you're looking for, right? And find that match.
That's a tool that can apply to a lot of things in your life, especially as a young engineer. Before you hit send on that email, pause. Before you say before you say that thing in a meeting, take a pause and think about it, right?
That's very true.
Not to say that we should never speak up or say things. There's lots to do, um, but and at work and outside of work, the pause is important because a lot of times, our emotions overflow into our life and our work, and the pause helps. So
Yep.
it's particularly useful in searching for a career as well.
Yes. Use the power of the pause.
Yep.
So your story is not line up with mine exactly. I'd spent a few years at a company before. I made a big move. I'd lived in California and then I moved to the East Coast of Massachusetts. But during that big move, there was that pressure to find a job right away. And I did not deploy any of this. And I searched and I searched and I searched. And I took basically the first job that someone said, hey, here's an offer, right? And I was feeling the pressure. I had a house in closing. I had two of them, right? So one's being sold, one's being bought, and I just felt the pressure. I had to get over there with the job. My um, income was running out. I didn't have much savings, so I had the pressure, right? But there's
Yep.
still things that I could have seen as red flags at this company, and I think it would have been better off for me to keep looking and keep interviewing. Um, than have accepted the job right away because of the pressure. So,
Yeah.
because it ended up not being a great job.
Yeah. But it
So,
worked out for the better.
but it
So
got me to Hallam. So,
yeah. So did you when you so I know that I did not talk to other people um, outside of my family when interviewing and accepting the position. I didn't have any peers in the industry or colleagues or anything. Um, so I had the blinders on, and I didn't use the resources I had available. I didn't really try to go outside my close network and look at identifying what's going on with this company and what's other people's experiences. So did you have any of that? Did you go outside your family when you were taking that job prior to the one that you have now?
I I did in a very limited capacity. We did have family over here. It's part of the reason we moved over. One of them had a job at um, I think it was Energy, and they do estimating. They're a mechanical contracting outfit. She was doing estimating, so she was kind of close. So she would send my resume out, so that was excellent to lean on that. But other than that, no, because I didn't know many people over here. Um, I chose that job because it was close. It was an offer. It was not directly in Boston, and I knew I didn't want to commute. Take 2 to 3 hours off my life right away every day by having to drive into Boston and do the work. So those are some of the factors. But yeah, I did a little bit just because I happen to have that. But building a big network, getting to know people, is huge when choosing the next job. You can meet so many people that just even know a person in the company that you're looking at, have mingled perhaps with people from that company and have gotten to know them and the culture. You can kind of peel it from people. So the bigger your network is, and the more people you know, that's just one of the many benefits of having a network like that is that you can get the temperature of the room, so to speak, of like all these companies and who works for them and what kind of people they are. Um, but yeah, and you can also reach out and say, hey, how do you like how do you like your job over there? How's that going? And you can do that even when you're not looking.
Yeah.
It's a great way to connect and a great way to stay up to date with uh, the cultures of other companies too. So, and you can do that as a student as well.
Yeah, and having that network is going to increase your opportunities. So the limited amount that we do, particularly as we're younger, in vetting, we have no idea. We're still learning who we are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still learning who I am today, right? So I certainly had no clue 15 years ago. So having that network gets you through more doors, more interviews, experience in the process. You end up hearing questions um, that you hadn't thought about, right? Maybe a
Mm-hmm.
job that's totally, you don't end up getting an offer or you don't want to get an offer, but you heard some questions that made you think. It prepares you for the next one. And so having building that network early to get out there and get those doors open and walk through them and get that experience is going to be important to making a better choice than the choice you would make if you're uninformed.
Yeah. Get the reps in. Um, And that's just talking to people, joining societies, going outside of the narrow focus that you would have, say you're in school and you're following the curriculum and maybe a few internships that you have to do. And that's great if a school is forcing you to go get those internships as part of your major, because that's great experience. But yeah, you'll learn the questions to ask. And then in those situations that you're in, if you find yourself interning somewhere, you can ask all these really good questions, observe, and maybe see some things that you wouldn't have if you just had those blinders on. So that's a really good point. Let's shift into, so that's great. We want to network. We want to get to know people. We want to not rush into a job decision. We want to take the pause. We want to take those blinders off. Let's, if we can, shift into some tips and pointers and some direct actionable things that maybe we can discuss today that the audience can consider.
Yeah. So, all right. So if we've got your attention and you've decided that you're not going to rush into taking a position and, majorly impacting your life, right? That you want to actually slow down and do it right. All right. What's that look like? The how to do it, right? That's important. Okay. What to do? Great. How do you do it?
Yeah.
So, again, we don't know who we are, but we know a lot about ourselves. And we can identify, I think values are really important, right? And so to me, I'm looking for an organization that has strong values and sticks to them, right? So if they say they're going to do something and they don't do it, that's a problem. But if they do it, that's great, right? And hopefully those values align with your values as you go along. And of course, those change over time, both for the company and for the person. But it's going to be evident in the culture. And so, as we're looking for jobs, when I went to school, I had no idea what I thought I was going to, design robots, right? I've never once designed a robot in my career. So I think we don't know what we're going to end up doing because we don't know how our skills will develop. But it would be really good to learn not so much about the job, the position that you're being hired for, because that's just the first thing. That's the thing you're going to do first in your career. But eventually you're going to move out of that. So why don't you think about the other aspects? What is the culture of the company? Where are they located? What kind of work do they do? Is there travel involved? Is it a lot of travel? Is it limited travel? If you've got a family, a lot of travel might not be a good fit for you. If you got, if you're young coming out of school and you don't have a lot of things that are holding you geographically, maybe a lot of travel is going to be great for you, right? Get to experience the world, see how things are done elsewhere, and bring that into the remainder of your career. So learning about what makes the company unique, I think, is super critical because those things that make the company unique need to kind of line up with what gets you out of bed in the morning. Because if they don't, maybe it's a great technical fit and you know how to do the calculations great and document them and draw something nice, but maybe not, or maybe it's programming or something like that. So
right.
That only gets so far. The technical fit. There needs to be a cultural fit. You need to appreciate the environment that you're being brought into because you spend a significant amount of your life in this environment, whether it's a year or whether it's 20 years. It's a significant portion each week. So why not find one that's enjoyable?
Hey, my fellow impactful engineers. If there's one thing that you could do to help out this community, is to keep listening to the podcast, but also if you found value in it, to share it with one person, give us a 5-star review, or even leave a text review. It'll only take a few seconds of your time. Find that person that you think could enjoy some of this or learn from it, and pass on the good word. Now back to the show. That's very true. And kind of wrapping up all of that stuff that you said, it's like, it really goes beyond, I need a job. I'm expected to get a job. I need to know exactly what I'm going to do at the job. It's more, take a look at your life, where you are. And like you said, if you have a family, if you're single, what are your values? Have you really even considered what your values are? Um, and something that's really important that you said is what's going to get you out of bed in the morning and really like sustain you as you go through your career. So like you can only work so much and so hard for so long to reach a goal on pure motivation alone, right? You need that support group. You need to belong. You need to feel like they have your back, and the culture supports you as well. And it makes it, and I've been in both. So it makes it very effortless to want to get up in the morning and go to work and do an awesome job and face all the failures you're going to have at work and face the
Hmm.
adversity and face all that stuff. When you've got a team that is kind of aligned with you, the culture is aligned with you, and you have each other's backs, it makes you learn a lot more. You're supported, and you don't have that so much of that fear, right? The fear is kind of not an issue anymore when you have a support system like that. So,
Yeah.
can you know all of that stuff before you get hired? No, you can't. But there are things that you can do and questions you can ask during the interview process. There's research that you can do, especially these days. What a company does is posted all over the place. If the company's doing anything to show who they are, it'll be all over the internet. If they're not showing who they are um, through you find that your research digs up nothing. I mean, that's almost a red flag for me because they're not showing who they are. They're not trying to attract the right person that's going to fit to their company. So do they even know what the right fit is? Are they going to take good care of you? If during the interview they don't know what kind of person they're looking for, they just want to fill a role and get the job done, that's going to be a huge red flag for me.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing you just touched on. If you get the sense that the need is to fill a role, that this is a reactionary hiring, um, that's a problem because you'll get stuck in that role too, right? And so, one thing that I try to do is, of course, we develop our hiring plan and we have a strategy for every year. We identify who are the key roles that need to be um, brought in to grow the organization, and then where are those, what's the career development plan for the individuals that we have, so that people aren't brought in and stuck in the same role forever, right? So, my career path has been accelerated probably faster than I would have tried to do it on my own, right? I kept moving up the ladder, um, and I love where I'm at. But I could have sat another couple of years as a technical guy and learned a lot more. And I had no idea I had managerial tendencies or capabilities. That was kind of, my employer saw that and moved me up, and encouraged me and gave me the room to fail and have that safety net. You see these people doing all these dirt bike jumps and stuff, and they're landing on these big airbags, right? Triple backflip, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you really want to try the triple backflip without an airbag to land on? Because if you don't stick that landing, man, it's not pretty. Um,
And that probably is
so
gonna
no,
is gonna keep you from doing the triple backflip if you
yeah.
don't have that support down there.
That's right. So speaking to what you had talked about the organization supporting the person as well, not just the company, right? Um, that's super critical because I was given the airbag, right? I failed many times, and it was never a personal problem. It was a technical problem. Okay, we fix the technical problem, and you of course you're expected to learn from that and not repeat it. And if you start repeating the
Yeah, of
same
course.
problem over and over again, that's a different conversation. But I think the people that are going to be listening to these podcasts are the people that are already in tune with improving themselves, right?
Right.
And so that organizational feature of giving you room to make mistakes, right? It's like giving you a 125 instead of an 80 or something, right, to ride on it. So CCs
Get
of
something with some
engine
power.
size, if we're talking to people that don't know dirt bikes.
I don't know.
Yeah,
My dad bought a 450 when I was like, I don't
that's
know,
room to make mistakes.
15 or something. And I decided
Yeah,
that I'd never ridden a dirt bike, and I decided it'd be a good idea to get on that and just see,
that's a
oh yeah,
bad
let's see
idea.
how this feels. And I barely twist the throttle, and my wheels up, and I'm trying to just
Yeah,
not die at that point.
yeah. Yeah, so that might be too much, right? And so a
Yeah,
good manager is going to give you enough room to stretch you, right? Give you some roles and responsibilities that are going to grow you. Because here's a pro tip: we don't expect you guys coming out of college to know anything, right?
that's right.
We expect you to be able to learn, and that we as an organization need to be able to teach you. And then we teach you in the first year or 2 years the fundamentals and the things, and then on each assignment you learn more. And of course, there's individual learning. You can go outside and learn in professional organizations and elsewhere yourself. But yeah, giving the right amount of room to grow, and then that safety net to catch you when you fall, right? Because the clients, another tip, the clients know that you are young in your career and that you're going to make mistakes. And the clients know to call your boss and say, hey, something wrong here. We need you to fix it. And your boss fixes it, right? And they show you, and it's a problem that's resolved and not a personal problem. It's part of everyone's growth. I could not count the number of times that happened to me in my career.
I can remember a few, not with you, but just that's a thing that happens in every project, and it's a normal thing, and it's a great learning experience. And I can remember,
Yeah,
I can recall a few right now.
yeah,
But to kind of tie back to the, how do you figure out, how do you peel this information from a company before you're in it? You should be able to ask questions during the interview process, just like this, that stimulate a response that basically Jamie just gave. So how do you handle growth in your company at in an individual capacity? For me, if I came in, what's what's your process with someone coming in that wants to perform at a high level, learn your systems, and really dig in and learn a lot and figure it out and become an integral part of the team? Where do you spend your time, and who does it, and how do you do it? How do you work with that individual to get them there? And if they give a response like Jamie just talked about, that's a pretty good indicator that the company's going to take pretty good care of you, teach you a lot, and give you room to grow. If they say like something like, this is probably a worst case scenario, but if you walk in and the guy says, well, if you work really hard and don't screw it up, it's going to be great for you. That's
yeah,
probably not, depending on who you are, that's probably not what you're looking for. Um,
yeah.
so you are allowed to ask these questions, and I would dig in and ask those questions when you're at any time during the interview process.
Yeah, I think the most the thing that impresses me the most when I'm interviewing someone is that they're asking me questions. They're not just responding to my questions. It's not me drawing out the information from the person. It's them drawing out information about the organization from me so that they are gauging whether they're a good fit. And in doing so, when they're asking me questions, I'm learning about them, what's important to them, right?
Right.
You know, do I get every Friday off? Okay, well, what's important, right? So maybe long weekends is important to this person, right? Um, Versus, how long is a typical project duration, right? If somebody's asking me how long does a project last, and they might be gauging whether their attention span or their desire to stick with something for a long time um, is going to be a good fit for the culture of the organization.
Yeah. And if you're asking questions like that and you're getting a response that kind of indicates that they wonder why you're asking questions like that, that's another red flag, right? You want people that understand, that want, that have the desire to understand who you are and how you work. Um,
Yeah,
because you don't want to be a fast moving, extremely fast paced company that does job after job after job. And the skill that you need is someone that can focus really intently on one thing, but hop quickly from one thing to the next. And you're interviewing someone that likes to sit on one project, do it from A to Z, and that's how they feel really good. How would you know that without asking them or explaining that to them? And that is important. You don't
yeah.
want to bring someone in that's going to feel completely left behind or in the dust and have that tons of fear around having to move really fast. So knowing that about somebody is great.
Yeah, we do try to vet that out here. We've got a process for that's like an engineering process to learn about how people operate. And that helps us identify, right, is this a good fit? Just because you can have a great candidate and you can stick them in the wrong job, the wrong fit, and they'll be miserable and you'll be up, you won't be happy that their performance is bad. And you end up with this worst case scenario. And it's like, okay, what do we do wrong here? Because it's not a person problem, right? They've got skills and abilities. Did we hire them for the wrong position? Did we put them in the wrong place within the organization, right? Do they need to be somewhere else? Because our industry is pretty fast paced, and some people need to be, in a different industry where things are longer and more drawn out. So I think when you're asking these questions in an interview, you might not get the answer that you want. Um, the answer might not be what you desire to hear or what you expected. But you should also be thinking about, was the question answered well? Did it seem like the person that I'm interviewing with had a well thought out response? Or is this well, I have to provide a response, so I'm going to say something. How much does that company or organization spend thinking about these things in the background, right?
Yes.
How much is the company investing into their hiring process? To me, hiring is the most important thing that I do. I have to get projects done. I have to get the revenue to keep the company, operating. But long term, if I'm not hiring the right people now to be running the company in 10 years, right? That's a problem because those people aren't just going to show up in 10 years and say, hey, I'd love to run your company for you and I've got all the skills that you need, right?
Oh, and by the way, we do
That,
it exactly the way that you guys want us to do it, and it's
yeah.
in your 10-year plan. Yeah.
And our culture matches your culture, so
Right.
there'll be no upset here, and our costs are going to align with what you. So the organization that you're going to want to work for has, in my opinion, and of course I shouldn't say this for everyone because everyone is different. Right? So in my opinion, the organization I want to work for is one that has well thought out reasons and programs and policies uh, for what they're doing, right? They don't just tack on lots of things like, oh, well, we want to hire a lot of people. Okay, so we go hire a lot of people. No, we have a hiring plan. We have a structure. We have a goals. We know what size and revenue numbers and stuff like that. So the amount of thought that goes into it. And that comes from I'm spoiled. I'm at a company that is really well managed, and I've learned from some of the best in the industry. But I've also been at other companies where there is no clear chain of command, and I think a clear chain of command is going to be a great indicator of how much thought is put into these things. And you might not see that in the interview process. So I think in the interview process, you're going to be limited to what is the quality of the response to my questions. So that's going to be your metrics on how to evaluate the employer. Your job as the interviewee is to sit down and write some really good questions, right? And those questions are going to be specific to you. There's no list of 10 best questions for interviewers that you're going to Google and find. These are things that you have to think about yourself and how you want to operate. And then you need to ask those questions. And that will impress the employers, and it'll also, keep them from making a bad hire and keep you from taking a bad job if it's not a good fit. If it is a good fit, you're going to find out that you're going to be one of the top candidates because you're asking the right questions, and they're going to recognize that.
That's right. And I find that, like you said, you can't just Google what are the top 10 questions. There's a top million questions, right? Everybody's got their opinion, and depending on where they are and where they come from and how they're thinking about it at that time is going to be what they're going to be, suggesting. The best place I find to get some really great questions on that and pretty direct questions is on LinkedIn. So there's a lot of engineering managers that I've come across, and some I've gotten to know that it's actually their business now is based around helping people land jobs, right? So we see that everywhere. But especially in the engineering field, there are people out there that specialize in interview questions, how to look for the right company, advice type of stuff, solely based around engineering. And I find that very helpful and engaging. And then and before you even consider moving from one job to another or looking for your first job, kind of like what we talked about earlier, is get on LinkedIn and start engaging with these guys. Most of the stuff's free. Some of the stuff is paid because they've moved up and they've leveled up, and the content that they have is good, and it's needs to be something that they get paid for. Um, so, but there's a lot of free stuff too, and a lot of them will engage with you in the comments, and you can ask great questions in the comments as well. So you're doing two things. You're figuring out how to develop the ability to ask good questions when you're in interviews, but you're also networking at the same time, because those hiring managers that have turned into coaches know a lot of people in the industry that actually have jobs and are actively helping them, right? And they could be talking to someone, coaching them through how to do, how to get a good job, or even if they're in their job, how to level up to the next level, how to become the VP, how to become the director, how to wherever they're going, right? And they can have great. They could be talking to someone that goes, "Yeah, so now that I'm here, I need to start finding some really good talent, and I'm looking for entry level guys, and I'm looking for senior guys. I'm doing all sorts of stuff. The company's growing, and then you're engaging with them on LinkedIn. That's a direct path, right? If you ask, hey, know anybody that needs an entry level guy or a senior guy? That's a direct path, and they could have, oh yeah. And since you've been engaging with me, you're on my mind. I know the questions you've been asking. I think you might be a fit. Let me connect you. So, um, social media and to me, especially LinkedIn and the professional engineering industry, construction industry, um, that's where you're going to want to be, messing around on
Yeah.
LinkedIn and engaging.
Yeah. And doing the work, because as a hiring manager, I've also got lots of other jobs to get done too. And the amount of time that I've got available to find a candidate pool is limited, right? I wish it were 10 times what I have available in my schedule now, right? I wish that my only job were to go find the right candidates and hire them. As a hiring manager, I wish had no other responsibilities. Of course, I love the other parts of my job, um, so I would never have it actually be that way. So if you're doing the work as a candidate, right? If you're networking and you find a way to get to me uh, through someone that you know, or through a third, contact or whatever, if you're reaching out, you're going to go right to the top of the hopper, right? And then you'll have to make your way through the hopper. But that's very nice if you're doing some of the effort. If I have to go find you, right, I might never get there. I might never have the time, and you might be this great candidate that I'm trying to get into my organization, so I can produce, a company that has great jobs for people that are looking for them. And so the more work that you do, the more you're going to have those options to choose from. And hopefully you land a great job. You might not. And so one thing I'd like to kind of jump in topics here, but don't go out and buy a brand new car now that you got this job with a big paycheck for the first time in your career. Or maybe, you know, manage your expenses, tuck some money away. So if you've got to take a job quick out of college, it's going to be hard to put money away, but do it. Stash that so that if the job that you took is a bad fit, the next one you take, you can spend some time finding a better one, right? You don't want to go from one to another because of financial pressure,
Yeah.
right? So, maybe that, junky car that you've driven through high school and maybe into college is on its last legs. Try to squeeze out another year if you can, bank some money there. Give yourself options wherever you can so that you're not stuck if you do end up in a bad position. And if you are in a bad position and you want to make a change, it doesn't necessarily have to be that you have to leave your current organization, right? There could be a different department, there could be a different manager that you would work well under. And if you speak up, right? If you say, hey, you know, I feel like I'm technically competent at what I'm doing. I'm just not satisfied with what's going on, right? If you have those conversations and take the pressure off of it, tell your manager, like, I'd like to I'd like to make this situation work better. Can we work together on it? Most hiring managers would like to have that opportunity. It doesn't happen very often. People usually just think that they would never get anywhere. They think that their opportunity is limited, and that's not necessarily true. Some organizations it might be, but certainly here, I would definitely respect somebody coming in and saying, "Hey, something needs to change. I'm not sure what it is. Can we just start talking about this? And again, you're vying for time, right? But how much time would I have available if I can keep somebody so I don't have to go spend that time looking for a new candidate for that position within the organization, right?
Especially
So
if it's a technical fit, that's the conflict.
yeah,
And the people fit is great. You want to
yeah.
try and you want to try and get around that technical fit and see if there's some other service that you can provide the company that is more in line and with your values and fulfills you a little more. Um,
Yeah.
that's what you want to do. You want to keep great people, and find the technical fit that works for them. Right.
This is part of the safety net, right? It's okay to fail getting your first or second job, right?
Right.
Because some of us are going to fail at it. I did. And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to necessarily be your first job, but anytime you make a move, um, it's better to prepare, right? Having a plan, executing the plan is going to be better. But if you do fail, there's ways to deal with it, and don't be afraid to communicate within your organization. You know, right now, at the time of this recording, it's pretty much an employees market, right? Um, if you're looking for a job and you can't find one, um, it, there's lots out there. And I hear from a lot of the young people that I hire that they're afraid that they won't get a job when they come out of school. It's like, no, man, you could get 10 jobs. So don't be
Yeah.
afraid.
Especially right now.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
will be a time. There will be a time when it's harder, and you need to protect your job. And so, when those times come, you want to make sure you're in the right position,
So that's a good
right?
point. So it's more important now to take what we're saying and apply it and put some effort into it and learning how to ask the questions and getting involved and networking, um, now, because your pool of opportunity is huge. And if you just put yourself out there even just a little bit, someone's going to notice you and want to ask you about what are your goals, where are you trying to land, what do you know, and what do you think, where do you think you want to go? Have all these conversations. uh, you will get traction, and there's going to be a lot of conversations to be had. So let's try to make sure that the conversations that you're having are the right ones and that you're directing those correctly, because the difference in level of ability for the recruiters or the employers that are going to be asking you questions about yourself varies widely from the I'm working off a script, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to let's get to know each other and let's figure out who you are, and maybe I know some stuff about some companies that maybe you would fit, and then we can move you kind of in that direction. So there's a wide range. And so for those people that are doing the 1, 2, 3, 4 reading from a script thing, if you know the questions, you can start asking them and pinging them for more information and try to peel it out, and then you can go from there. But if you didn't know the right questions and you're looking completely for the other person on the other side to lead the entire conversation, you're missing out on a lot of opportunity, not only for just learning in general, about who you are and who they are, but also that golden job that maybe they're not conveying it right, and then you're not asking the questions, and it's right there, and the job is that you really want is there, but you didn't make the connection. So, um, do yourself a favor and really take this stuff to heart and start. I mean, it's all over. Start looking it up. Start following people on LinkedIn that have the information, and really get to know yourself and get involved and network for sure. So, yeah, and that's great advice that you had about not strapping yourself into debt as soon as you get your first job. I mean, that's going to help that. It's hard to see, but it'll help that future pause if you need to take it. It's going to give you more of that grace period to be able to figure out your next move without having to worry about that financial situation that's weighing down on you, which is going to be, and well, I wouldn't say that I know this, but I'm assuming that it's probably the primary driver of a lot of decisions, right? I mean, this is work, this is career, this is paychecks, right?
Yeah. When
Um,
you become detached from that financial obligation, uh, being the main motivator of your choices, you can start making much better choices. Um, there's a
yes.
lot of people out there in jobs that they would change their job if they had an opportunity, right? And so I think the people the audience that would be talking to you here today are the people that have more opportunities than most, right? So it's a wonderfully blessed audience. I have a feeling, um, and so don't start chopping away at your opportunities here. You know, set yourself up for flexibility. Um, so if the company that you're working for lays you off, it was a great fit, they loved you, but something happened that no one in your department or your manager was in charge of. You get laid off. You're out in the marketplace. Um, you need to be able to not make a bad move into another job. Um, and you need to not limit your options there, and that often happens with fancy new cars and lots of other things we blow our money on when we're young that we think is that 450 dirt bike or whatever.
So I mean, I'm assuming that if the audience was the person that's listening was looking for what to ask for in a salary, which I do cover, and I do some hot takes on that. What the benefits are, all the monetary kind of stuff, like what's in it for me kind of stuff. Obviously, that's not what we're going to be talking about, because all that stuff is very base level and it's very tied to just numbers. So you can ask, and I would, but what we're trying to cover is more of the people side, more of the soft skills, more of the fit, the culture, and that underlying foundation that will carry you into greatness at a job, at the career that you want, or propel you further and beyond that, if that's the path that you're going to take. So I'm assuming those people have dropped off by now. So if you're still here, just to recap, start trying to figure out who you are. Number one, if you don't know how to do that, I'm not necessarily the best at covering how to do that. I would find someone that knows how to do that, even if it's some free advice or paid. If you pay someone to help you figure that kind of stuff out, and they have a coaching program it's a good, they have a good reputation and people are writing good things about it, and you put that money down, you're invested. So when you're looking at free stuff, you tend to say, oh, the first distraction that pops in your head, you're like, well, I didn't pay for this, so I'm out. Yeah, I really do want a burger, so I'm going to run out and go eat. Or I don't have time for this, I got to do all these other things. So you let that creep in. And so you kind of can touch the free stuff, and maybe you absorb some of it, maybe you don't. But if you invest in yourself, even if it's just a couple $1,000 into some coaching program, then you're in it. I mean, a couple thousand is a good amount of money. So you're going to want to learn, right? So then all of a sudden you open yourself up to receiving the learning a lot more. So I'd recommend that, depending on who you are, go try to figure out who you are, get those core values down, know what drives you, know what motivates you and stuff like that. That's going to help you tremendously in your career. And it will help you connect with the potential employers or people you're working with to get you that job. Because if you can convey right away who you are and what you feel about work, it doesn't matter what the job is, people are going to connect with you really quick, and they're going to know if you're a good fit or not. And more often than not, I see people more impressed with someone who knows themselves and has that soft skill development than any technical ability. Unless it's some super strict, narrow job opening that's like, we need you to design this one thing that does this one thing, and it's in a process of a bunch of other stuff, but you got to be able to do this. Then yeah, talk about that thing. But, most of the time it's not that. So bring who you are. That's number one. Number two, I know we say it all the time, but network. You really got to get out there and know people. You're never going to know what conversation you'll have, what podcast you'll listen to, what coach you're going to get advice from, what those conversations are going to be like, and what one thing you can pull from that's going to help you tremendously. So the more exposure you can get, the better. And and I would say most engineers are probably scared of public speaking, putting themselves out there. Probably. Maybe they think themselves more introverted than extroverted, stuff like that. They kind of silo themselves and predefine who they are. And I'm an introvert, and I would try to break through that as best you can and just put yourself out there. It's not as scary as it seems. And you learn a lot of good stuff, and you have a lot of good stuff to teach other people as well. You just might not know it yet. So get out there and make those connections. So that's really the top two that, to kind of recap the episode. There was a lot of good stuff in there, but those two things, if you can do that, you're well on your way to figuring out and putting yourself in the best position to find a great job. And then know as you move through that job, if it really is the great job that you thought it was going to be, and you're going to figure that out real quick. So,
and continue to invest that time. If it's not great, if it's good, right, and you invest that time, and you might make it great, right? You might bring something to an organization they don't have, right?
Yep. Continue all of that into that position that you got, into that job, into that employer. Continue all of this stuff right through it and keep it going. Yep. So you can network. There's not just networking, outside of your company and other people. It's networking within your company, right? Especially as you get more and more people, what do we have? How many people we have here? 140?
35.
135. I don't know all of them yet, but it's really easy to get on Teams and say, hey, would love to catch up with you, learn more about what you do, and spit some ideas back and forth. And it could only be 5 to 10 minutes. Let's do a coffee chat. And I promise you'll love the things that come out of that. Sometimes it's nothing, but most of the time there's a lot of good stuff that comes out of that. So keep doing that.
Nobody ever found gold when they weren't digging for it, right?
That's right.
I mean, I'm sure somebody found some.
Yeah,
but,
stumble upon
usually
it.
when you're finding gold or diamond mining, you're going for it is when you find it. So you got to put the effort in, and it's super critical, right? This is going to be a part of what molds you as you grow, and putting the effort in and not getting lazy, right? We all humans have a tendency to get lazy, right?
Be comfortable.
And comfortable. So it happens. Get a hamburger, be happy.
I was talking to someone the other day that had just landed a really good job. And I was, of course, asking him how he did it and why and how he felt about it. But this is the exact quote. He said, I told them that I'm very comfortable being uncomfortable. Yeah. And the CEO that he was talking, or the owner of the business that was interviewing him said, that's a big part of the reason that I hired you or made you that offer, is because you said that you were able to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And networking and putting yourself out there, and me actually doing this show is helping me do that as well. Be comfortable with being uncomfortable. So yeah, without going, too far, I would say to wrap it up, and I didn't give Jamie this question before, but I'm kind of thinking maybe there's one practical piece of advice that maybe we covered that you could emphasize or that we haven't covered. But I'd like to end with just one thing that you think, if someone has made it this far in the episode, that they could walk away with, write down on a piece of paper and actually do something with. What piece of practical advice would you give them?
Ask more questions. Yeah. Engineers, and this is an engineering podcast, need to learn to ask more questions. And, that doesn't mean ask every question. Some questions you can go find out the answer yourself, but ask more questions, right? Don't try to go do it, come back with the finished product to impress your boss. Ask the questions. Okay, here's what I'm thinking. Is this the right path? And so as you're interviewing, as you're looking for companies, as you're dealing with maybe a transition from a current position to a new position, inside or outside the same organization, ask the questions, right? Speak up, because the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? And the people that ask the questions get the answers. And when you have the answers, that's the data. We're all engineers. We like to use data to make decisions, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't ask the questions, you don't have the data. So ask more questions. And we use that a lot here at Hallam. I hadn't thought of it ahead of time, but it popped up as the one thing. So I'd encourage all of you to write them down ahead of time. Think about them while you're interviewing. Think about them all the time. What's important? What questions should I be asking? And ask them.
That's awesome. I love that answer. So figure out who you are, do some networking, go ask some really good questions, and get some great answers. I think that's what we'll leave you with today. So thank you, Jamie, for joining us.
Thank you, Jake. This was a fun experience for me.
Yeah, it was a great conversation, so I appreciate it. Hey, guys, I hope you had a great time listening. Maybe you learned something new, maybe you got inspired, or at least took one thing away that you'd be able to use. Maybe you just had a good laugh. Impactful Engineering's hope and mission is that through this podcast, we can play a small part in expanding the reach and awareness of engineering and all of its many areas of application. The multiple engineering career paths available could be hugely rewarding as part of a fulfilled life, creating opportunity to impact nearly everyone in the modern world. An engineer's work helps to foster creation of new technologies, create safe and comfortable environments in which people can work, and lends to the sustainable future of everyone on the planet. The world needs more impactful engineers. Our vision is to provide engineers with the perspective and the tools to allow themselves the opportunity to become the most impactful engineers they can be. Included in our vision is to grow the impactful engineering community to a point where we can provide full ride scholarships to students in every single U.S. state every single year. This is an enormous goal, and with your help, we can get there. To start, we will continue to execute this mission in the way that we know how, having conversations, telling stories, and talking about what we find interesting and are passionate about. If the episode made you think, made you object, made you think you could possibly be doing something more with your day, or brought about an idea that you could spend more time on developing further, please share the show or recommend it to your friends. Even if you didn't personally think it was a huge help, there may be someone that you know that could benefit from it, and that's all we can ask for. Until next time on the Impactful Engineer Podcast.